Okay, let's dive straight into this stack of market analysis reports you've shared. The topic today, it's genuinely massive, and, well, it points to a fundamental shift happening right now, the global mobile payment market.
Yeah, these sources, they give a remarkably clear view into just the sheer velocity of change here. It's not just growing, it's undergoing an incredible transformation, according to this data.
Exactly. So our mission here is to kind of cut through the noise, pull out the most important bits in these reports, really understand the scale of this projected growth, and, dig into the key drivers and the regional hotspots, the material highlights.
Right.
And speaking of scale, well, the headline numbers straight from the source are pretty staggering.
They really set the stage, don't they? In 2021, this global market generated 873.411 billion in sales revenue.
Okay, hold on to that number because the projection based on these reports it's almost unbelievable. By 2033, that figure is forecast to leap to 779.94 billion. Just
Oh.
think about that jump.
Yeah, that's basically a tenfold increase in just over a decade. And it's underpinned by what the sources are calling a phenomenal compound annual growth rate, or CAGR, of 22.3%,
22.3%.
which means the market's roughly doubling in size every, 3 to 4 years globally. That's more than growth. It's really an acceleration.
Phenomenal is definitely the right word. A 22.3% global CAGR isn't just like a gentle upward trend.
Yeah.
The reports frame this as a skyrocketing phenomenon. It really means the way billions of people interact with money is changing at lightning speed.
And what's particularly fascinating, looking at the specifics in the source material, is how this explosive growth isn't really uniform across the globe.
Right.
The reports make it abundantly clear that Asia-Pacific isn't just a significant player, it is the largest market right now and projected to stay that way. Plus, it's among the fastest-growing regions.
Okay, so let's unpack Asia Pacific first then, because its numbers really seem to anchor the whole global picture. The reports show this region accounted for a massive $317.922 billion in revenue back in 2021.
hmm And that figure is projected to swell to an incredible $755.5 billion by 2033.
And what's striking is its CAGR, 23.036%. That's actually higher than the already pretty impressive global average.
It is.
So the source material kind of begs the question, why? Why are these numbers in Asia Pacific so much higher, both in, scale and the growth rate?
Well, based on the details in the reports, it looks like a combination of factors. Sheer population size, obviously, but also, crucially, a kind of mobile-first approach that's really embedded in many economies there.
Mobile first. Meaning,
The rapid adoption isn't just because there are lots of people, but because mobile is often the primary way or maybe the first digital channel for financial services for many individuals there. It's not an add-on, it's the main thing.
gotcha. Okay, let's drill down into some of the key countries the source material specifically calls out within Asia Pacific.
hmm
China, for instance, is described as a dominant force.
Oh, absolutely. China represented a staggering $124.625 billion in 2021 revenue alone.
Just China.
Yeah. And it's expected to keep up an impressive pace with a 23.497% CAGR. The reports point to its, massive existing digital ecosystems and just how widespread mobile wallet adoption is there. Those are key drivers.
But then you look at India, and this is where the speed, like the velocity becomes incredibly apparent. The reports highlight that India has the highest individual country CGR globally, a blistering 23.6%.
Yes, exactly. And while its 2021 revenue was $57.862 billion, significantly smaller than China's,
Still huge, but yeah.
that highest TGR suggests incredibly rapid adoption, maybe from a potentially lower starting point relative to, say, digital penetration. The source material hints that things like government initiatives pushing digital payments and platforms like UPI Unified Payments Interface are significant accelerators there.
So it's a prime example of policy and tech adoption really driving exponential growth.
That's what the data suggests, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Japan is also mentioned as a major market, cited with $36.116 billion in 2021
Mm-hmm.
and a solid 22.466% CAGR.
Right. Still very strong growth.
And Southeast Asia, taken sort of collectively, was $48.229 billion with a 22.185% CAGR, still tracking close to that global average.
So if we connect this back to the bigger picture for Asia Pacific, its leading position is clearly propelled by that combination, right? Immense scale in markets like China, and then the sheer speed of adoption in places like India.
Yeah.
The reports really underscore that this region is setting the pace for the whole global trend.
Okay, moving across the globe then. North America is introduced in the sources as another significant, uh, pretty well-established player in mobile payments.
It is, though maybe with different market characteristics compared to Asia Pacific. North America generated a substantial $239.489 billion in 2021,
Okay.
and it's forecast to reach $2,515.4 billion by 2033.
Still a huge market then, with a robust CAGR of 21.775%, slightly below the global average, but still very strong.
Right. The report suggests growth here is maybe driven more by integrating mobile payments into the existing retail and e-commerce infrastructure.
Right, rather than necessarily leapfrogging traditional banking entirely like we were talking about might be happening elsewhere.
Exactly. Breaking that down by country, the U.S. is obviously the largest chunk, accounting for $193.172 billion in 2021, with a KGR of 21.68%.
Okay.
Canada was $28.835 billion, with a slightly higher KGR of 22.266%.
Oh, interesting. Closer to the global average there.
Yeah. And Mexico had $17.483 billion and a KGR of 21.977%. So, all showing strong, consistent growth, largely sort of in line with or just slightly below the global average, except, yeah, Canada being a touch above.
Got it. Europe is also highlighted in the sources as another strong and expanding market. Its 2021 revenue was $199.138 billion.
And the projection for Europe is to hit $2,141.81 billion by 2033.
Okay, with a healthy CGR of 22.092%. That's tracking very closely to the global average, actually.
It is. The reports list key European countries showing pretty similar trends. We see Germany at $35.646 billion with a 22.583% CAGR, so slightly above average. The UK at $23.299 billion with a 22.347% CAGR, very close to that global rate. France with $21.905 billion and a 21.364% CAGR.
A little lower there.
A touch lower. And Russia with $24.295 billion and a 21.567% CAGR. So the data here suggests a pretty broad, consistent embrace of mobile payments across major European economies, integrated into their diverse financial landscapes.
Right. Looking south now, the reports indicate South America is also showing, well, significant activity and rapid growth in this market.
Indeed. South America's market generated $46.291 billion in 2021, with a forecast to reach $645.476 billion by 2033.
And that translates to a CAGR of 22.534%. Now, that's interesting because that rate is slightly above the global average.
It is, yeah, hinting at accelerating adoption in the region.
Yeah.
And the source material mentions Brazil leading the way there, with $15.831 billion in 2021 and an even slightly higher CAGR of 22.666%.
So the data suggests that maybe like some parts of Asia Pacific, mobile could be playing a role in expanding access or providing more convenient options, especially given the diverse economic conditions within those countries.
That seems plausible based on the numbers, yeah. It could be fulfilling different needs there.
Okay. The Middle East market figures are also detailed in the reports you provided.
Right, Middle East. $42.448 billion in 2021 revenue, expected to grow to $426.405 billion by 2033.
Okay, and the CAGR there.
Comes in at 20.652%, so a bit lower than the global average, but still, very strong double-digit growth. Not slow by any means.
Definitely not.
And Saudi Arabia is called out as a significant contributor within those Middle East numbers, with $15.791 billion in 2021 and a 20.603% CAGR, very close to the regional average.
And the reports imply that maybe significant digital infrastructure investment in some of those countries is supporting this growth.
That seems to be the implication, yes.
Got it. Finally, let's look at the African market data from the sources.
Okay. Africa had $28.124 billion in sales revenue in 2021, with a projected leap to $295.354 billion by 2033.
And that's showing a 21.324% CAGR. So again, while starting maybe from a smaller absolute base than other regions, that CAGR is Solid.
Very solid. And again, it speaks to that rapid adoption potential.
Mm-hmm.
And South Africa is noted as a key country contributing to these numbers with $12.149 billion in 2021 and a 21.146% CAGR.
So similar to the regional average there, too.
Pretty much. And the sources suggest that mobile-first solutions, especially maybe in areas with less developed traditional banking infrastructure, are drivers here. Kind of similar to the trends we talked about seeing in parts of Asia.
Right, that leapfrogging idea again, perhaps. Okay, so zooming back out, looking at the synthesis from all these numbers, all these regional breakdowns,
Yeah.
what's the core message here for you, the listener?
I think the fundamental takeaway from these sources is that this shift to mobile payments isn't just like a localized thing or some niche trend. We're seeing incredibly high growth rates, consistently above 20% CAGR, projected across all major global regions.
Yeah, that consistency is key.
It really is. And while the scale and the specific drivers might vary a bit, Asia Pacific leading in size and speed, North America integrating into established systems, other regions finding their own acceleration points, the trend itself is universal: rapid, widespread adoption.
And this rapid, widespread adoption is the key insight, right? It's not just about bigger numbers on a chart. It's about a fundamental transformation in how commerce actually happens worldwide, as highlighted throughout these reports.
Exactly.
For you, listening, this means how you buy coffee, how you pay for stuff online, how you send money to family, even how businesses big and small operate. All of it is being reshaped by this, explosion in mobile payments.
So just to briefly recap, the data from the sources you share, they paint a pretty undeniable picture. Mobile payments aren't just growing, they are projected to explode into a multi-trillion-dollar global industry in just over a decade.
Trillion with a T. Many trillions.
Yeah. And everything we've discussed today, from the global headline figures down to the regional nuances and the country-specific speeds, it's all pulled directly from the material you provided for this deep dive.
Right. So considering the scale and the sheer speed of growth presented here,
Yeah.
and just how central mobile payments are projected to become, and so quickly, it leaves you with a pretty significant question, doesn't it? What happens to the traditional ways we've always thought about money and transactions when payments increasingly just become, another function on your phone?
Yeah. What does that future really look like?
Exactly. It's definitely something to keep in mind as you navigate this changing global economy.